Hello everyone, DMFF here, and welcome back to Time Wizard Techs. Today, we're covering an anti-meta deck that I created for Edison Format. This deck, called Macro Fissure Banish, is an anti-meta deck that focuses on making it so then cards can't go to graveyards. Many decks in Edison Format utilize the graveyard heavily, and turning off their graveyard shuts them down. So we'll get right into it, and we're actually going to start with a spell and a trap, the namesakes of the deck. Macrocosmos. The first part of the effect we're going to ignore because we don't even utilize it. Second part of the effect, while this card is face up on the field, any card sent to the graveyard is banished instead. Super powerful, you just have to make sure you have it set. And we run 3 copies of this. The spell card in question is called Dimensional Fissure, which is weaker in some ways and better in other ways, as you can activate it the turn you have it in your hand, as opposed to having to set it, but it's a little weaker, as any monster sent to the graveyard is banished instead, which isn't as all-encompassing as Macrocosmos, but that is okay, as most of the decks that go into their graveyard are going into it for monsters anyway. We also run 3 copies of this, essentially making 6 copies of our Floodgate that we need to make this deck function. Now that we've gone over the main floodgates of the deck that make it tick, let's go into our monsters. We'll start from the high level and work all the way down to the lowest level. First, we have Light and Darkness Dragon, a super powerful monster from this era, like 2007 to 2010. 2800 body, and it cannot be special summoned. While it's on the field, it's also a dark attribute. Once per chain, when a spell or trap is activated, or monster effect, this card loses exactly 500 attack and defense, and that activation is negated. This is not optional. So the best way to actually utilize this card is to get your opponent in a very hindered game state, where basically they have a completely empty board, and you have a either empty board or close to empty, and you slap down this Light and Darkness Dragon until they're able to get rid of it. Then, once it dies and is sent to the graveyard, which sometimes won't even happen in this deck, we're utilizing it mostly for the negation. You destroy all cards you control, and then special summon a monster in your graveyard if you have one. Next, and the best 1 tribute monster in the game up to this point, is Caius the Shadow Monarch. If it's tribute summoned, target 1 card on the field and banish it. If it's a dark monster, also deal 1000 damage to your opponent. 2 copies of Cyber Dragon, good for going second, good if we have an open board, good to be able to get a 2100 just beat stick on the board, as that is what it's going to be mainly used for. Can sometimes be utilized for synchro fodder, as we do have 1 tuner in the deck. Next, we have 2 copies of Thunder King Ryo, who is a Floodgate in themselves. It turns off being able to search. It turns off all searchers, and when your opponent would special summon exactly 1 monster, you can send this face-up card to the graveyard to negate the special summon and destroy the monster. Really awesome stuff to be able to control the game on a 1900 body. Next, we have 3 copies of DD Survivor, which during the end phase, if this card was banished while face up on the field, this turn, special summon the banished card, and it can only activate once per turn. There's some interactions that we can do with DD Survivor that make this really strong, but essentially it also makes it so that it makes it really hard to get rid of. If our opponent attacks into DD Survivor and it gets banished, it just comes right back during the end phase. Next, we have DD Warrior Lady, an old classic. She's just incredibly powerful for this deck, as if she attacks into anything or gets attacked, she just banishes herself and the monster that is doing battle with her. And since she's unlimited in this format, we run 3 copies of her, because she is just that good in this deck. We do run 1 copy of Breaker the Magical Warrior for additional back row removal, as there are some really strong back row cards that we may need to get rid of. Breaker only at 1 copy, even though he is unlimited in this format, he isn't good enough to run more than just 1 copy. We have 3 copies of Grenmaju Daiza, which many people know. This card's attack and defense become the number of your banished cards times 400. While Pot of Desires doesn't exist yet, and you're not going to get that explosive 4K body, you will be able to get this guy up to pretty high numbers fairly quickly on a level 3 monster, just because of how the deck is. Next, we have 1 copy of Blackwing Gale the Whirlwind, as it is limited to 1 copy. We don't actually run any other Blackwing monsters, so we don't actually have the special summon effect for Gale in this deck, but it is one of the best tuners in the entire game, as it can target a face-up monster and cut their attack in half. Then you can go into your synchro plays. Next, we have a copy of Morphing Jar, as it is a great way to get cards into both players' banish pile, and then draw 5 cards. Finally, to round out the monsters, we have 3 copies of Cyber Valley, or Cyber Valley, whatever the heck, it's Cyber Valley in English, which is an excellent defensive piece in this deck. You can activate one of these effects. When this card is targeted for an attack, you can just banish it straight up, draw a card, and then end the battle phase. So it's great protection, draw power, and ability to fill up our banish pile. Additionally, it has 2 other effects that we can activate. We can target a face-up monster that we control, and this card, banish them both to draw 2 cards. Or, we could target a card in our graveyard, banish both that and Cyber Valley, then place the target on top of the deck. Now that's all the monsters in the deck. Next, we will get on to the spells and traps. We have already gone over Dimensional Fissure and Macrocosmos, so we'll just get right into it. We have 2 copies of Enemy Controller. Why do we have Enemy Controller? Another oldie that sometimes gets used in the past and does actually see some play in this format. It is really good for several reasons. It can be used defensively to just change target opponent's monster's battle position if we need to, but a really powerful interaction that we can have with this, especially during our own turn, is to have DD Survivor and utilize the enemy controller's second effect to tribute a monster and take control of one of our opponent's monsters. Then during the end phase, that DD Summoner, or that DD Survivor, is just going to come back. That's excellent. That's truly, truly excellent. So, we run it at 2 copies. It's really good. 1 copy of Mystical Space Typhoon for quick play spell trap removal. 1 copy of Reinforcement of the Army, as we are running a good amount of warriors in the deck, and we can search for any of them with Reinforcement of the Army, as long as there's not a Thunder King Ryle around. Now we'll get into the traps. I chose Dimensional Prison here, even though it is a battle trap and requires our opponent to attack. That is still the main method of winning the game in this format. Dimensional Prison does not destroy the target and just banishes it. The reason that is the reason that we chose Dimensional Prison over something like Bottomless Trap Hole. With all of the Stardust Dragon running around, Bottomless Trap Hole is a bit of a detriment, as it does destroy the target first, and Stardust Dragon can just negate it. Next, we do have something that does destroy, and that is Mirror Force. And we all know Mirror Force, destroy all your opponent's attack position monsters when they attack. It is really good to wipe out entire boards, and honestly, just don't use it when your opponent has a Stardust Dragon. Next, we have a pretty good win condition for the deck, and that's Return from the Different Dimension. Pay half your life points and special summon as many of your banished monsters as possible. During the end phase, banish all the monsters that were special summoned by this effect. You're going to want to activate this card to close out the game. We have 1 copy of Starlight Road as negation for mass removal, and to go into one of our Stardust Dragons as we are running them. 1 copy of Torrential Tribute as another solid mass removal option. One copy of Dark Bribe, as it is great, solid spell trap negation on spell speed 3, and one copy of Solemn Judgment as the best Omni Negate in trap form. Now we will go into the extra deck. We have one copy of Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon, as we are running Cyber Dragon, and most people are running Cyber Dragon, so you can go into this pretty regularly and remove some stuff from your opponent's field. One copy of Mistworm, that is like before Trishula's time. It's like Trishula Light. When it's synchro summoned, target 3 cards your opponent controls and return them all to the hand. It's pretty good stuff. It's only a 2500 body, but I do enjoy this card. Next, we have Thought Ruler Archfiend, a pretty solid level 8 synchro monster that we can go into. If this card destroys a monster by battle, sends it to the graveyard, gain life points equal to that monster's original attack in the graveyard. When a spell or trap card is activated that targets one psychic monster and no other cards, you could pay 1,000 life points and negate the activation and destroy it. So it is solid anti-target measures and also ways for you to gain life points, which is lesser, but still something. Next, we have Dark End Dragon, which is an awesome card in this format. Once per turn, you can target one monster your opponent controls. This card loses exactly 500 attack and defense, and if it does, you just send the target to the graveyard. Gets around destruction. It's really awesome. Awesome card. Next, we have 2 copies of Stardust Dragon, which, if a card or effect is activated that would destroy a card or cards on the field, you contribute him, negate the activation, destroy it, and then if you actually synchro summon Stardust Dragon, it will special summon itself from the graveyard during the end phase. One Colossal Fighter as just a solid level 8 synchro monster that has some shenanigans built into it with one of the other cards in our deck. One copy of Blackwing Armor Master for a level 7. It cannot be destroyed by battle, and we don't take battle damage from cards or from attacks involving this card. So it is pretty well protected. At the end of the damage step, if this card attacked a monster, place a wedge counter on that monster. You can, max 1. You can remove all wedge counters from your opponent's monsters, and the attack and defense of those monsters become 0 until the end of this turn. So, pretty annoying piece of support that is hard for your opponent to deal with. Next, we have one copy of Black Rose Dragon, Blow Up the Field! Next, we have Arcanite Magician, which is kind of like a lesser version, not quite, but it's basically a backup to our Black Rose Dragon. If it's synchro summoned, place 2 spell counters on it, which makes it a 2400. Then you can remove 1 spell counter from your field, target a card, blow it up, and that's not once per turn. We have one copy of Goyo Guardian, and this is before it required an Earth Tuner. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you can special summon that monster in defense position to your side of the field. Then we have a copy of Brionic, the Dragon of the Ice Barrier. You can discard any number of cards to the graveyard, then target the same number of cards your opponent controls. Return those to the hand. I am pretty sure that it wasn't once per turn back in the day, but it is, you know, in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! One copy of Magical Android, as that is one of the level 5 synchros to go into, and basically all it does is gain you 600 life points at the end of your turn. But it is a solid 2400 body on a level 5 synchro. Second to last, we have Ally of Justice Catastor, which is a great removal option. At the start of the damage step, if this card battles a face-up non-dark, just destroy that monster before damage calc even takes place. Finally, we have Armory Arm, which is an excellent synchro monster that is level 4. Typically, we're not going to be able to get the combo off, but there is a combo within the deck where we can equip an Armory Arm to one of our opponent's monsters that has 1900 or more attack. If we do this, and we have Colossal Fighter on the field, we can just continuously keep punching into it, because we'll punch into the monster with Colossal Fighter. They will lose 2,800 life points, I believe. Yes, original attack. So they will lose 2,800 life points. Colossal Fighter will then be able to target itself in the graveyard, special summon itself, rinse and repeat. That is just an instant combo to be able to win the game. Albeit, it is not something that can happen very often, just due to the nature of the deck and only having one tuner monster. That's the deck. Let's get into the sideboard. We have 2 copies of Trap Eater to be able to remove some of our opponent's trap card floodgates if we need to, and it is also a level 4 tuner. 3 copies of Battle Fader for additional protection against especially aggressive decks. 2 copies of Book of Moon for additional defense. 1 copy of Cold Wave to turn off our opponents being able to activate spells and traps until our next turn. 2 copies of Forbidden Chalice to either be able to negate an opponent's monster or even use as a combat trick to make one of our monsters just a little bit bigger. 1 copy of Giant Trunade, as it is good back row removal for this deck, as it won't destroy our Dimensional Fissures and Macro Cosmos, and we can just activate them again. An additional copy of Dark Bribe, just in case we need additional spell trap negation. 2 copies of Divine Wrath, just in case we need some monster effect negation. And 1 copy of Gravity Bind, just in case we need further floodgates. But that is the deck. Macro Fissure Banish, the anti-meta deck for Edison Format. How did you enjoy it? I hope you can give it a try on Dueling Book, or even bring it to an event and see how it does. Your opponents will be sure to be annoyed against this style of deck and will definitely sideboard against you whatever they can. But this deck actually I have seen lots of success with this deck back during Edison Format when it was current, and during Edison Format as a Time Wizard format. I really hope you enjoyed the deck. Anyway, if you liked this video, hit that like button, subscribe, drop a comment. If you want to support me further, check me out on Patreon. Thank you so much to KMAL3170, my one VIP DMF ever. If you would like your name or username read off at the end of my videos, join my Patreon today. Anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.